What's up, man? How's it going?
How's it going?
Let's start out with you introducing yourself.
JD Maplesden. JD are my initials. I've been called that my whole life, so it just was easier to go by my name than it was to try to make up a name.
Okay, you already got my first question for me of how did you choose your artist name? So you've been going by that the whole time. You never did any other
Nope,
names?
never did
Straight from
anything
the
else.
jump. Love it. What's the first thing you made in glass?
A little jar about the size of tip of my thumb to hold hash.
Yeah. Did it have colors? Was it clear?
It had a
Remember?
little bit of color. I got a crash course. I put color to tube. I pulled stringers, put color to tube, and blew it into a bubble. And then the guy who gave me my first little lesson, a guy named Angel out of Moscow, Idaho, finished it into a little jar. And I used it as a hash jar for years.
Do you still have it?
Maybe somewhere. I'm not sure.
Okay. So how did you get started in glass?
When I was 17, I met a glass blower on on Clam Beach in Humboldt County, and I was able to buy $400 worth of spoons and sidecars and Sherlocks from him. And this was like 97, 96. Yeah, 97.
Okay. And then when did you start actually blowing glass?
When I was 21. So that would have been like May of 2001. So a solid 4 years later.
Okay. And so you're just slinging pipes the whole time before that?
Yeah, I used to buy cases of pipe. They all thought I was in college because I was at a college party, but I didn't go to high school and I just hitchhiked a lot. And we were at a 420 event, and I bought the whole case from him. And then I would go to my hometown, and I'd sell them to everyone I went to high school with. And the ones that didn't sell that week, I took to the local head shop. It was called Things for Your Head, and I couldn't even go into the back room, so I had to meet her over at my mom's best friend's house, Corey. And Shannon, the owner, came over and bought every piece that I'd bought off this guy Nat for $2 to $5 over, and then I went back and bought like a $600 case of glass from him. And
Okay.
I did that up until I was like 19. Then I moved to Idaho, and I was pizza delivery guy, so I'd have a case of glass in the car. When someone was smoking weed at the house, I'd be like, "Yo, you want to match a bowl?" And I go inside and match bowls with these kids, and I pull out this glass pipe, and they'd be like, "What the fuck? Where did you get that?" And oh, I got a whole case of them in the car. And I did that for a few years. I met this kid Abram at a rave, and another guy named Decon, Doug Connor, and started buying pieces off Abram. And Abram was learning from Dosher, so that I was buying pieces from Dosher. And then after that, I was buying pieces from all the Seattle guys: Ease, Eli, Ezra. I get some Scott Deppies from time to time, and we just go to what were called barter fairs back then. Open up the case and see what we could get deals for. Sometimes we go over to the gorge and we'd sell glass in the parking lot of the gorge. And then once I started off making mostly like beads and pendants and little shit, because every time I'd be out there selling cases of pipes, everyone would be like, just everyone's girlfriends would be like, "You got any beads? Got any pendants?" So I made a lot of money off beads and pendants for the first 4 years.
Wow, okay. So the next question is like, were there big influences when you started? Do you feel like the people that you
Oh
were
yeah,
selling were
oh
kind of
yeah.
some of the
It was,
influences?
a lot of it was with those guys. It was like everyone was, every time you go and see their pieces, it was always different. It was always changing. You know, they all had their own individual styles. It was like everyone did a reversal, but not everyone did a reversal like Jason Lee. Not everyone did a reversal like Ease. You know, Dozier had the cut and flips. You had like the horn pulls. You had Amber Pellegrini with her sculptural stuff. So it was like everyone in the Seattle scene at that point, like they were always doing something new, something different, pushing it. I'd see like the Seattle, like this Eugene glassblowers from time to time, but being from Spokane, Washington at that point, it was like the Seattle glassblowers were like the biggest influence for me.
Yeah, okay. Do you remember the first place you sold your glass? You might have already said it, but
Uh, the first place I sold my individual pieces
yeah.
was Peace of Mind in
Okay.
Spokane.
Awesome. Still around,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Are there certain objects that you made at the start that you still make?
Oh yeah, I make everything I used to make back then because
Yeah.
I mostly started with beads and pendants.
Yeah,
So
a lot of people actually usually they kind of just say like marbles, but it seems like for you actually a lot of that stuff, yeah, you're still crushing out.
yeah.
Was the technique that you do with fume done like when did that all happen?
I started off with fume, and at a certain point, everything got really into like full color reversal work, raticello work, like just different patterns, and I never really liked it.
Hmm.
I wasn't very good at it. Didn't feel like it was mine, and then I just like started making my own colors, like making my own fume patterns, like my own shapes, playing around. Like Sherlocks were definitely like my favorite things, and then just kept always trying to figure out something different. A lot of the stuff I do now comes from the way I do it comes from not being able to use my left hand after an accident.
Hmm.
So I had to adapt using the lathe instead of my hands. Now I just do it bigger, a little bit more technical. It's harder to figure out how it looks and stuff. So
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
it's great. Paint me a picture of what the scene looked like, either when you first started blowing glass or when you got into the glass scene.
There was nothing to go off of besides finding someone at a show. Head shops didn't have very much stuff. Peace of Mind had a really good selection. Um, that was when I first, that was before I started. I would go in there and look at pieces they had from Max Pollan. But really, to see glass, you'd have to go to a show. You have to, go catch something, go catch fish at the gorge, go further shows, you know, try and find someone at the local market that might have something. But there wasn't, up until early 2000, or like 2000, maybe a little before then, there was glasspipes.org. So I remember when we first started doing glasspipes.org, it was like you'd wake up in the morning, you pull your piece out of the kiln from the night before, take a couple photos of it. And back then you had to actually have a camera, and you didn't just have a phone. So you'd have to take the photo, and then you'd have to download it into your computer, and then you put it on glass pipes, and you couldn't sell anything. You couldn't say it was available. Only thing you could do is just be like, I had a lot of fun making this thing. This is the colors in it. You could put your email address in your profile, but if anything at all ever said this is available or this is for sale, they'd pull your account. You get warnings for it. But it'd be like we'd wake up in the morning, take photos of pieces, put them on there, and if you got featured, you were one of the featured ones, then your piece would go up on the center file in the center 5 or 6 photos right there, and underneath it would be like constantly cycling of everything else. And then there was the top 100. So the whole goal was always to like try and get your piece featured, and the only way to get it featured was somebody in the top 100 had to like it and put a feature on it.
Oh
And
wow.
it was kind of like a game to play. Like get up in the morning and be like, "Fuck yeah, I got featured!" And be like me and Brando and Domer, and we just had like a little shop and we just play around. It was like kind of fun. It's like every day was fun and different because you had like a oney, a sidecar, a Sherlock, a bubbler. Some people made bongs. We didn't even have rigs yet. We were just trying to figure out like how to create our own styles, like how to get different shapes. So it was like every day you'd walk into the shop and it'd be like something new and something different.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's move on to like now. What do you feel like inspires your work the most right now?
Life, the way I don't know. I like making whiskey glasses because I like the flavor of whiskeys. I'd have a lot of fun making dry pieces. Those are like my favorite things to make. Um, do a lot of bongs because you know, just I tend to make stuff the way I like to smoke and the way I like to drink. I like to collect marbles, so I'll make a handful of marbles every once in a while. But I find it's hard to base what I want to make off of other people's wants because it's like I'm not the best. I don't dab very much, so it's like I don't feel I make a very great dab rig. But at the same time, some people love smoking out of them. I want to make something that looks more like my stuff, not just something that like anyone like it could have been made by any one of us.
Yeah,
So it's hard to get behind trying to make stuff that's like sellable versus just like making stuff that you want.
makes a lot of sense. What's your favorite thing to do outside of glass?
Go to music shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love to dance. Really big fan of dancing. About it.
Okay. Uh, you touched on it a little bit, so maybe we'll say just like sometimes I'll say just today. But what's your favorite thing to make right now? Say even just yeah.
Honestly, Sherlocks I've always loved making.
And so that's been from the start till now, pretty much.
I
You've
know
been
it took a long time to figure out how to get the way I like to make them and like get down different techniques and stuff. Like the Sherlocks of 15 years ago are way different than the Sherlocks of today. Sherlock's 10 years ago were still different. They're similar, but there's different things about them that like every time it's like clean spots up, sharpen things up, add more, do a little extras here and there.
so. Is there a certain thing about the Sherlock that you're really enjoying right now?
It's just the classiness of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just to me, it's just like the classic smoker's pipe. Like
great.
I remember going over to my grandpa's friend's house and he had like a whole thing of Sherlocks. It was like he'd spin it around and he'd pick his Sherlock for the day.
Huh.
I was like, damn, that's so classy.
Love that. What do you hope the scene looks like in 10 years?
I don't know. I think scene's pretty strong within the glass blowers are talented and good. I'd like to see more charity stuff going down. It'd be awesome to bring back like the Oregon Project and the Colorado Project and Armadillo, the Evergreen, but just doing more community stuff. Get out of our shops and get more into our communities.
Yeah, I love
You
that.
know,
Last question. What do you hope to accomplish in glass?
I don't know. I think I've accomplished most of what I ever thought I could. It's yeah, it's yeah. I've just be able to do it when I'm 70 would be stoked about it. If I can continue to work, then I'll find get a part-time job if I have to. But always be always be blowing glass, but just never have to stop.
Love that, dude. Alrighty. Thank you very much, man.